Okay, well, let's get started. Today is the 123rd Security Thought Leadership webinar. And we've been here for over 15 months now, where nearly every Tuesday and Thursday, we've been debating a topic of central interest to the security world. And the idea of thought leadership is that we critique today what's going on in order that we may get a better type of security tomorrow. And the topic this week is one that has very definitely evolved from previous webinars. We've done the topic of diversity before. And what's come out of this is that in a way, there's a lot of agreement that we need to be diverse, that we need to be inclusive in the world of security. What's less clear is precisely what we need to do to improve and how we do that. And I'm delighted today to be partnering with the Security Commonwealth to better understand these questions and to get some thoughts on how we can constructively go from here. So in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite our three panelists to introduce themselves. And once they've each done that, I will then invite each of them to make their opening statements. 3 minutes when they get the chance to say whatever they want to about this topic. And once they've done that, we'll come to you, the audience, for questions and discussion. So I would encourage you to get your questions in early, use the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll endeavour to incorporate it. It strikes me that it's easy to say we're going to be diverse, and it seems that a lot's going on in some areas more than others. But let's go to those who really know about it and meet our panel. So first of all, let's go to Oliver. Oliver, can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Martin, and hello to all the attendees. It really is an honour to be talking to you all. My name is Oliver Curran, and I've been working in the security industry for over 25 years. I started as a very young and very keen security officer back in 1995. I'm still keen, just not as young, and I'm now the Deputy Security Manager at University College London, an institution with over 48,000 students and nearly 300 buildings. I'm also the Vice Chairman of the Global Further and Higher Education Security Organisation, AUCSO, which is the Association of University Chief Security Officers. And I'm now also a board member at the Security Commonwealth, which is the umbrella organisation of independent membership bodies across the UK security industry. Thank you.
Oliver, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Jane. Jane, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Martin, and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jane King, and I'm currently the Head of Security and Site Services at Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust, one of the oldest hospitals in the country, and also very centrally located in the capital city. I'm also the co-founder and co-chair of the Trust's LGBT Forum and Allies Network, and currently I'm the chair of the Security Commonwealth. And as my colleague said, it's an umbrella association of 40 membership bodies, associations, and our mantra is being stronger together. I've worked in healthcare security for nearly 30 years, and I believe that now is the time for change in the industry, and it's never been better. The pandemic's allowed us to redraw the lines of roles and responsibilities and the ability to embrace change. If we can do this at senior level, we can also do it at frontline level.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. And finally, to our third panelist, Huda, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, thank you, Martin. I'm Huda. I am the CEO, founder of an online platform called Quick Click Security. Right at the beginning stages, but being built with the idea that we're going to centralize access to information, job opportunities, development opportunities, networks, mentoring, and create more accessibility into the industry. I'm also on the board of the Women's Security Society, so today's session is definitely something that is very, very close to my heart in terms of sort of creating more accessibility and showcasing opportunities to more diverse audiences of what we can offer as an industry, the security industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Really appreciate it, and welcome to you all. Well, just to say to the audience, don't forget question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. Get your questions in early, and we'll endeavour to incorporate it in the ensuing discussion. Without further ado, though, let's go to our panelists and hear what they've got to say in their opening statement. 3 minutes, where they get to say what they want to about this subject matter. Oliver, over to you.
Thank you, Martin. And as you said previously, you know, this webinar is built upon previous webinars. We had some excellent panelists. So I'm not going to repeat what they've said. I will, however, just touch on a point that, that some of these panelists were from outside the UK. So it's obvious to us that inspiring equality, diversity, and inclusion in security is a global problem. And instead, what I want to do is focus on my observations on this matter and what I think can be done. I said earlier, I'm a security manager in the higher education sector. So like most people involved in security, my role is very much about supporting my organisation in its daily activities, which at UCL is vast and varied. Having a commitment to EDI is fundamental to any university's core values and success. And if the university security department is there to support their institution, well, then it clearly makes sense for us to prioritise this too. We have a very fond term at UCL, which we all like to use. It's more of a tagline, and it says disruptive thinking since 1826. I'm just going to repeat that, disruptive thinking since 1826. And what does that mean? Well, disruptive thinking, as we know, is just simply about thinking differently. But specifically, it's a way of thinking that challenges the traditional way of doing things and brings about innovations which completely change the way an organisation or industry behaves. We all hate the term, well, that's the way it's always been done. And if you're someone that says that, then my friend, you are part of the problem. The latest University World Rankings were published last week, and UCL came 8th out of 1,300 universities. Now, you don't come 8th out of 1,300 by doing it the same or even a little bit better than the others. So as I say, disruptive thinking. The association I'm vice chair of also, we set up our diversity special interest group 5 years ago in 2016. The group continually looks at the challenges and barriers faced within the HE sector, the HE security sector, I should say. Talk about how we can tackle these, return to our institutions, try and use these initiatives, and then come back and discuss it, see what worked well and what could be done better. So there's been some really great outcomes by that group, and I look forward to sharing that with you in the near future. So again, personally, how can I bring what we do in the university sector to the security industry? Well, through the Security Commonwealth. I joined the board of Security Commonwealth, SciComm, as we call it, in April 2020, so just after the UK's first lockdown, because I believe SciComm's potential for openly connecting people across the security industry, identifying industry problems, and then collectively finding a solution. It puts us in a unique position to tackle this issue. Ignoring or not understanding the benefits of EDI is not a new problem, and looking for solutions is something that pretty much all of SciComm member bodies have no doubt tried to tackle internally, without much recognition and with little wider interaction. So as Jane has introduced, our new chair, so you're going to hear from her soon, but what SciComm is looking to do is to promote each other's initiatives while creating a 10-point plan, which all members will be able to get involved in, regardless of how advanced they are in their EDI culture. So again, I'm sure we can come on to that as part of the discussion, but that's 3 minutes. I'm going to stop talking now.
Oliver, thank you very much indeed. Just say to the audience, question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. Please get your question in early and we'll endeavour to incorporate it in the ensuing discussion. So Jane, your opening statement, please.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So I'm going to start by saying inclusion starts with I. When we talk about diversity, equality or equity and inclusion, it starts with you and me. The public and the public that we serve isn't one thing, and it doesn't speak with one voice. It comprises many voices. They're all diverse and they're evolving. So we need to ensure that we include views that are as varied as the population itself. So sometimes diversity and inclusion can be criticised for being empty and tick box exercises. We need to look at the categories being used, male, female, black, white, Asian, when we speak about diversity, as it doesn't really represent complex and multifaceted identities of people themselves. So as I said earlier, I'm part of the LGBT group. So I will, that's the facet that I will represent, so female and LGBT. In the UK, there are 9 protected characteristics under the Equality Act of 2010. So that's 9 protected characteristics, and not just one. When people talk about diversity, equality and inclusion, they tend to err on gender and race or sexuality. not much thought process with the others. So, you know, just talking, why are we doing diversity, equality, diversity and inclusion? Because morally, it is the right thing to do. Not only is it the right thing to do, it's good business sense. It brings diverse teams to the table that add more value to the organisation. That is an absolute fact. And also, when you can be your whole self at work, you make a better employee. And ultimately, the sector in which we work must be reflective of the communities in which we serve. Security is here to keep the public safe, whatever organisation you work in. Ollie in education, myself in healthcare. That's our primary focus. And so to address this, how are we going to do that? So my colleague Huda will speak about that later, but I'm going to say we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at role models. If I don't see a role model who looks like me, where's my aspiration going to come from? We need to look at recruitment. We need to stop recruiting from the same ex-military and ex-police pool. We need to make security a first generation, not a second or third career choice. It's a second career choice for me, of which I'm very grateful, but it needs to move on and we need to help it move that way. So we need to look at talent management that is inclusive of diversity and inclusion. And we need to also, for people who don't identify with one of the 9 protected characteristics, we need to have allies, and our allies will make this work for us. And allies are active bystanders. There was a previous Stonewall campaign that said, don't be a bystander. And that's your role to supporting your colleagues and people around you. And also we need to create safe spaces. And what does that mean? Some staff, like myself, would have come from previous organisations where they were repressed or didn't have good experiences. And I will focus on the LGBT and the BAME community. And just talking about the BAME community, it is in the UK, it is the term for the Black, Asian and minority ethnic networks. However, in healthcare, since March 21, the government has directed us to use the term of ethnically marginalised groups. However, we need to acknowledge that Black and Asian people of colour across the globe are in the majority. Really important point, I think. And so what? The pandemic has taught us that technology and agile working have opened new doors. And with this comes another sector of the populations that we can recruit into the industry. So I'm just going to say, you know, unless we are reflective of our communities, I'm not sure how we're going to go forward. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, questions starting to pile in. Question answer button at the bottom of your screen. I'll come to you straight after we've heard from our third panelist. Huda, your comments, please.
Thank you. Just following on from what Jane said as well about diversity and building more diverse teams and it being the right thing to do. And I think sadly the way our world works and how society, business, most of the time the right thing to do is not the priority. But then Jane also pointed out that actually more diverse businesses make more money. They generally have more competitive edge. There's more collaboration. There's more minds from different experiences, different backgrounds. And I think, I don't know if anyone in the audience has ever been in an escape room where a small group of you you'll have a time, maybe an hour, and there's lots of clues and hidden puzzles, and you will be astonished that certain people will see things that have been staring at you for the last half an hour and the room is about to explode, and the way people's minds work is different. Now, one of the diversity, there are studies that show that actually, to play devil's advocate here, diversity can increase conflict within organizations, within teams. However, it's not a barrier, it's a problem, and I hope everybody here is a problem solver and experienced in conflict resolution, because ultimately we just need to find ways of ensuring that teams are able to communicate. It's a two-way stream. So we need to make sure that people are open and ask why and ask questions and feel comfortable to do so. And other people are patient with people. I think fear is often a reason why we don't move, or we're not really proactively trying to find, new or different people that are or different to us, because we're afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. And I think we have to be patient, and we have to be brave and ask questions about things we don't understand. I think ultimately we sometimes talk as if we have to be, and we do as an industry, our recruiters, our HR teams, we have to be open, and we have to make sure that when we're putting job specs out there, the language used is attractive. We're attracting diverse candidates, because ultimately I don't think that we even have that talent pool coming to us yet. I feel like there's so many reasons why we're not diverse, and it's not because we talk very negatively sometimes about the industry, but I think the industry is doing quite well. I came into it and as we've all said, second career, and I've never left. And it's because I've felt so supportive, and I've met so many incredible people, and I found a place here. And what we need to do is now push that out, and be positive. And we need to highlight the opportunities that exist in this industry. We need, we talk about diversity. A lot of other cultures, when their children are thinking about where to go to school, what to do at university, what careers, it's typically lawyer, engineer, doctor, those known reputable professions. And we have those opportunities, we have those stable careers, we have longevity in this industry, but what we don't have is a structured framework. And then from that, we can then show people that this is a professional industry. Join us. And I think there's a lot for us to work on, but we are moving, we are going in the right direction. I just think we need a bit more action, and we need to show how good the industry is, rather than constantly talking about the negatives. I think we need more marketing. We need to market what we have and what we've got to offer.
Good. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. Well, look, very, very good. Lots of views there. I'm sure we're going to come back to many of these points. In fact, they're already reflected in some of the questions. So let's get underway. Jane, let me come to you first. Michael Westbrook picks you up on your point about not recruiting from the police and military. And I suppose the first thing is for you to clarify, you saying never, or you just saying amongst other things. But Ted Everly builds on this point and says, what are the pools we are looking for? Now, it's very easy to say, let's write different job specs. Let's have a different way of thinking about how we recruit it. But let me say this to all three of you as well, starting with you, Jane. What's wrong with just recruiting the best one and letting the cream turn to top? Do we sometimes have to turn down what we see as the best candidate because you'll reassure us that the best is in some other way can be judged by having a diverse workforce? Jane, you first, and then I'll come to Huda second, Oliver third. Jane first.
So absolutely not. This isn't about positive discrimination, but what this is about the equity. So we need to understand, when I said about police and military, and I'm coming from that side, okay, I absolutely get that. But if you only recruit on a like-by-like basis, then the pool doesn't increase, okay? It's similar thinking. As Huda brilliantly said earlier, the more diversity you get in your teams, the better thinking you get, and it's better business. We need to start. That's why I said we need to start making it a first career, not a second or third career. There is a place for it, but we need to make sure it's not the only place. And we will start doing that by job descriptions. I've seen many job descriptions where the language used is very masculine, and it will use masculine words. And there was a study done, Martin, you might know this, in Australia, where they changed the job descriptions, and they took away some of the masculinity words, and the recruitment of female candidates increased. So it's the way that we write JDs. I find it disappointing when I look at a JD in a person spec and it says ex-military or police experience required.
Okay, fair enough. Huda, let me come to you because you picked up on this point. And when I was saying, do you think, therefore, that we shouldn't necessarily take the best person on the day if it doesn't fit the diversity? You seem to be shaking your head.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that we should be taking the best people. We're working in a commercial environment. You know, we need to, for businesses to be successful and do what we need to do, we need to make money. Therefore, we need the best people. The point is, diversity and building diverse teams, we're not doing it because it, you know, goes back, we're not doing it just because it's the right thing. We're actually doing it because it's better for business. And I'll give you an example. If you are fishing in a pond and you are looking for the biggest fish, you may well get the biggest fish in that pond. If you go fishing in the sea and you go for the bigger fish, you're going to get a much bigger fish, because the pool, your options are much wider, it's vast. And so the point is, you know, opening up job descriptions and being more sensible and really thinking, it's not about do we want ex-military or police or not. Of course we do. What we want to know is, what are the skills? What skill sets does this role require? What skill sets does the team need? What skills does the business need? And I think we really need to focus more when it comes to recruiting and hiring on skill sets. And if we do that, we can also hire on potential. Because if we understand what skill sets particular roles or job positions require, we can see someone and think, wow, they haven't quite got the skills we need, but they have the potential. And because we know what skills they need, we can put them on a course. We can get them a certain qualification. So no, absolutely, we need to hire the best. But if we open it up and we start attracting more applicants, different people from different industries, backgrounds, cultures, it's much easier, and we will hire better because we've got more people to choose from.
All right, Oliver, let's what's becoming clear. The only way we're going to get a diverse workforce is if we positively discriminate. It's a male-dominated world, and that's how security is. Let's get to the point. Isn't that what you're really advocating?
No, I think, Martin, I mean, just going back to again what Jane and Huda were saying. I mean, I've been working in the security industry, as I said, 25 years, 23 of those years in a sort of supervisory management position. So managing teams, looking after teams, putting teams together. And I can tell you the best teams I've ever worked with have been the diverse ones. And again, sorry for being a guy that's going to talk about football, but you can mention this to any sports. For those overseas, the best football team in this country is a team called Chelsea. I think everyone will agree. And, you know, any team you put together, you know, you can't have, so like Chelsea, people that know, you know, we've got a goalkeeper called Mendy. He's fantastic. 11 Mendys in the team isn't a good team. You know, 11 Mounts in the team isn't a good team. You have to look at the individual skills. You have to look at what people can bring to the team and bring them in. And again, going back, you know, I know some fantastic ex-military, ex-police officers work in this industry, and they have brought some fantastic skill sets with them. But I also know some ones that haven't, and have, you know, embarrassingly, in you know, watching these guys kind of ruin things. And I just think, you know, the thing is, you need a good mixture. You always will. And I'll refer back to what they said about role models. You know, this is one of the problems we have. You know, I'm just going to mention this quickly. I picked up a few of the security journals recently, which I've got a lot of time for the journals, and the people that run them, they're fantastic. But when you actually look through it and just look and say, well, let me just have a look. How many people in this magazine are men? How many people are women? How many people are BAME? Yeah, it's obvious, and without going to percentages, which I won't, is that a case of the articles, the magazines, website, are they reflecting the industry, or is the industry reflective of how we portray ourselves out in the media?
Interesting point. Okay, I'm sure we'll come back to it. Huda, let me come to you with the next question, and it's from Mike Hurst. And Mike's got another point on this, and I think the thing is, Huda, we all get the fact that there is logically a benefit in being diverse, but and you can see that, and the research says this. But Mike's question is: does diversity in gender, ethnicity, religion guarantee diversity of thought? I mean, is it simply a matter of recruiting from more diverse sources, or is it more to that? Culture, management, attitudes, recruitment, training. Couldn't we get to it that way? Huda? Yeah,
I mean, when I think of diversity now, I think years ago I used to be very sort of in those, you know, women, ethnic, culture, religion, whereas actually now I think diversity, we really are talking about different ways of thinking. So people coming from different backgrounds, you know, different cultures. Even when we Jane mentioned that the characteristics, you know, in terms of discrimination, things that affect people, or people that feel like they're different, or they've gone through different experiences, you bring we are people, we bring our personal into our work environment. And I think ultimately diversity can mean anything, and that's why, again, it's important, this whole, you know, opening up what people think, the perception of security, so that we get more people, like all sorts of people, whether, you know, I think I spoke to Jane yesterday, and she used that the example that, you know, people with a disability may, if you think of security as, you know, manned guarding, you may think that there isn't a place here for you. It's absolute rubbish. There's certain roles that won't be appropriate, just as there's certain roles that won't be appropriate to anybody and everyone that don't have particular skills or experiences. And yeah, I don't want to waffle. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee. Well, you weren't waffling, but let me come to Jane. I'm going to ask you to comment very briefly on this. This idea that is this down to making sure we've got a certain number of each of the 9 characteristics, or nine defined groups, and it'll be fine?
No, absolutely not. And the last thing it's doing is about counting and making sure that we have, you know, that we have enough women, enough gay people, enough black people, enough young people. But it's acknowledging that people bring different facets to the organisation, and all that it's doing, what we're talking about, you know, when we're talking about equality and equity, is that it doesn't matter about your background, your culture, etc. You will have the opportunity, and it's about having the opportunity. And I've seen some of the stuff on the chat, and it's about the attitude. Absolutely agree. Absolutely. Give me the right attitude, and we will teach you the rest. And it's my responsibility as an employer to teach you, to make you the best that you can be, because the best that you can be is the best for my organisation and for my industry.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Jane. Oliver, let me come to you in a question from Martin Roberts. So Martin wants to know something about unconscious bias in the industry. And it strikes me as a reasonable starting point, Oliver, because quite clearly it's male dominated, and LGBT doesn't seem very prominent to me at all, not like it is in other sectors. I mean, do you think there is unconscious bias within the sector, and therein lies a key problem?
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think that is exactly one of the issues that the university sector have been working towards for years. You know, whether it's university sector or any other any other security sector you're working in, you know, as we've said before, you want to be able to represent your community. You know, you want to be able to you know, show to the people that you're protecting. You know, why you're here. You know, we all join the security industry, 101 different reasons. And as I say, I think what we're trying to do is to, you know, reassure our communities. We want to provide that safe environment for them to sort of work and obviously here to thrive. And I think, you know, you can't do that if your team isn't representative. It's quite hard with us because, you know, we like to talk about representing our community, but from an age point of view, you know, most of our students, you know, they're in those early 20s. But I think the thing is as well, it's, you know, I've used this term before about, you know, there's a film, there's a million ways to die in the West. And to me, there's a million problems in the security industry that we have to, every day we have to tackle. Every day we have to think about a new way out of it. So, you know, that's the thing, you know, we've got to think of that diverse group. You know, if we all stick to the same types of people with similar backgrounds, we just won't fix all of the problems that we have to look at every day.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Huda, I'm going to come to you with this question, and we've certainly stirred up some thoughts here. And Huda, Ty Weatherby says, how do you think this sudden push for something that marginalised individuals have been saying forever makes people feel? The worst thing to do when talking about truly solving a problem is dismiss someone's user experience when it comes to these issues. Fair point or not?
What?
The point I think Ty's trying to make is that when we talk about these issues, there's a danger that the marginalised feel more marginalised by virtue of the type of language we use. There's a problem. We haven't understood. We haven't got it right. That in fact, another question that I was going to come to in a minute that argues that maybe we should be speaking more about ways to inclusion and what unites us as a way of putting this across, rather than the problems of what we haven't got. It's a thought, Huda.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I was thinking about this when I was preparing for this webinar, and I thought, you know what, we use the word diversity, and it almost takes away that we're all people. We're all actually the same, and everybody's different in different ways. Sometimes it's more obvious than others, but we're all completely individual. I think one of the things that we've all touched on is we've talked about diversity, but it's this inclusive part. And I think that's where perhaps that answers that question is, we need to make sure that within all our organizations, like personally and within organizational culture, we incentivize people to be inclusive. We incentivize that sort of behavior and that sort of attitude.
How? Give me an example of how we can do that.
You know, whether it's as simple as a monthly reward or a competition within a team at who can come up with the most a team building exercise, or you know, inclusivity is about people working together, and the more people work together and the more different people work together, the more you realize that you're not actually different. You have different ways of thinking, you've got different backgrounds and experiences, but you're the same. And actually, how much more enjoyable is it working with people that are different to you? You get to learn more, you get to understand more, you open your mind to things. And I think it all becomes very kind of, you know, we used the word positive discrimination earlier, and it's like we're trying to force it, but we're not, because ultimately, or we shouldn't, we can't. Ultimately, it is going to take time. You know, there are people that haven't had the same opportunities and platforms that others have been able to have, but it's about trying to balance that out.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, Oliver, this seems an opportune moment when we talk about incentivizing to discuss this point about we've been working together on a category for the Outstanding Security Performance Awards, precisely to recognise it. Do you want to just say something about that, Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Martin. And like I said, it was something myself and Jane and the rest of the board members of the Commonwealth have been talking some time back. As I mentioned earlier, you know, to me, where the Security Commonwealth sits in the industry is that kind of that group that can connect people and talk to people. So we've been discussing plans, and obviously we want to put a working group together to establish some other bits. And as I said, other bits like training and accreditation, you know, this is a key thing with regard to EDI, you know, but recognition and awards, coming back to what Huda was just saying, that, you know, when I looked, and again, during the research, as you well know, Martin, is a big part of university life. When I was looking, and I looked at all of the award ceremonies, not just the big ones, the Oscars, etc., but, you know, even the company award, it doesn't mention EDI in any way. It doesn't mention, you know, and most of the titles are the same. So, you know, we thought surely one of the outcomes is that we want to be able to recognise the good work. Now, as I said, the Commonwealth, this isn't a problem that we are trying to fix because no one else is doing it. People are out there all the time. They've institutions we speak to, and I include also, you know, we've been working it for years. We try and look at these issues. We try and say, right, how can we get this on the table? So really, it was a case of, you know, we looked and said, we need to reward people, give awards to people that have done some great work, because we know it's happening. We just don't talk about it. So hence, one of the conversations that we had with yourself, Martin, and your colleagues at OSPAs was to say, can we look at getting this on the OSPAs, you know, award categories, an EDI initiative award? And thankfully, and thanks to you, you've agreed to do this.
Well, thanks to Security Commonwealth for your support. So just to be clear, and we'll be announcing in the UK OSPAs Open on the 22nd, and it will include this category. So thank you very much indeed to that. Jane, let me come to you next. Now, Ian Pennell raises the point that agrees with Huda that we need to incentivise, and wonders where we may look to initiatives, which overlaps a point by Bill Butler, who says that plenty of other sectors have faced this problem and made better progress than the security sector. Can we learn anything from elsewhere about the problems they've had and how they've overcome them? Because you could be forgiven for believing it's something the security sector talks about, but by and large pays lip service to.
Okay, I think it's a really good point. If you look at other organisations, and I'll just talk about healthcare and education, EDI is embedded in our organisations, absolutely. And it's reflected at the board level, it's part of the overall strategy, and we're still not getting it right. That's the thing. We've been on this journey a long time and we're still working on it, and we're still not getting it right. So, you know, that's large established organizations. And you look at all of these big companies out there, and they all say to you, they have an EDI policy, but all of them also will have security. And security it just seems to be excluded from that because it's provided by external contracted companies. So we need to persuade contracting companies that this is really important. And that's why we're hoping that SciComm, by the physical presence of an award, will show this is a good thing to do. And it's about opening up the conversation. Yes, you know, I've been in the industry 30 years and we've been talking about it for 30 years. And I'm not sure we're that far down the road. There's lots of commitment, and I speak to some great people, lots of commitment. But actually what we need to do now is get everyone in the room on the same page. I think this is a really good way to do this today. And we will say, okay, this is where we are. This is the pace. Fantastic, the OSPA's is going to be the first one, but actually we need to make sure it's elsewhere. The OSPA's cannot be the only one.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, and Huda, let me come to you on this same point, because I think it's important. You raised the point about incentivizing. But what do you think the big barrier is in the security world to having not made more progress?
I think it's that our perception. I think the perception of security, both internally and externally, is nowhere near where it needs to be. I think, you know, when people think of security, they think of, you know, low skilled, low paid roles. And as many people I'm sure in this room know, it's not the case. You know, we have an entry level like every other industry has an entry level. And there are career structures there, but ultimately, if we don't even know about them, how do we expect other people to know about them? And therefore, how we can't attract diverse people. We can't attract new talent pools if they don't even know what opportunities exist. So I think that's part of the problem. We haven't created the profession that actually we have probably become.
Okay, fair enough. Oliver, let me come to you with a question from Dr. Glenn Kitteringham, who says you've got it wrong, you three. And here's his point. What the industry is fundamentally missing, he says, is standards and training requirements for all positions. Without minimum standards, you can hire all the diverse people you want, but you are trading in one type of incompetence for another. What are the panelists' views about mandatory training, regardless of race, gender, etc.? Isn't he right, Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's not right about us getting it wrong, but I appreciate what he's trying to say. Because, and this is what I say, going back to the 10-point plan, you know, this one of the points of this, one of it is about training and accreditation. As I said, you know, Claire Humble, who used to run our also diversity group, is now setting up her own company, which is looking specifically at training, you know, sort of online training at university level. And EDI is one of the first ones that, you know, she introduced, because that's exactly what we have to have in there. So I think, you know, absolutely it should be there. But again, if you look at the way I've always approached it, you know, even when it was first introduced, I was in the industry when the SOA first came out. For me, that's always just, that's your basic level. That's just getting in the door. Once they come to your, you know, my background before, HE, corporate, you know, retail, a few bits and pieces, you have to make your own training. You have to make it site specific or industry specific. So I absolutely agree, EDI training. And I think just going back to the conversation you said, Huda, about the barriers, if you like, I think there's a lack of understanding, I think, about what it is and what it isn't. You know, this isn't about tick boxing. And I think, you know, we've always got to realise that. I see this this sort of self-preservation, this attitude where people just not interested to talk about it because they think that means they're going to lose a job. And I go back to what I said before. It's not about that. It's about getting the mixture of people, getting that sort of, you know, the football team sort of thing, and engagement and communication. So I absolutely agree with what he's saying. But again, the understanding, the training, engagement and communication is key. That is why, again, I think Security Commonwealth is looking at this to say, right, we need to engage with each other. We're all talking about it in our separate groups. Somebody needs to bring it together.
Okay, fair enough. Just a few points from the questions and discussion. Mark Newman makes the point that we shouldn't talk about gender. Isn't sex, it's gender reassignment. We need to make sure that we get our categories right. Joe Connell has made the point that it's about people respect and how much people respect themselves, and we ought to be promoting that as an issue, which leads me to my final question, panel. I'm going to ask each of you, just got 15 seconds each, a bit unfair because it's a major issue. If you could wave a magic wand, if you could each do one thing, strategic level, in order to bring back a more diverse and inclusive workforce, what is the single thing that you would advocate that we do strategically as a security sector? So Oliver, you were the first to speak. Let's go to you first.
Okay, in a word, training. Professor Gill, you twice a week you say that we need to critique today so we can get a better type of security tomorrow. This is it. This is what we're trying to do. It's here. You know, we've listened to you. We've listened to you say this, and this is exactly what we're trying to do. But training is the one thing we need to do.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Jane, one thing we want to do, headline issue strategic. Wave your magic wand, Jane. What are you going to go for?
Okay, I think we need to look at the data. We need to get the data. We need to get a sense check of where we are at the sector and the leadership. But what we need to do is we need to do recruitment, talent management to include diversity and inclusion. And that is around the appraisals and support. And when we have promotional prospects, then I think we need to be having diverse panels to ensure that there is equity for everyone. Okay,
I'm not sure that was one, but it was quite a few, and they were all sounded good to me. Okay, Huda, finally to you, final comment. Wave your magic wand. What do you want to see?
I think we need to attract and retain talent through defining career and learner pathways and build a structured professional framework.
And when you say that, what's the route to achieving that?
We need to collate all the research and information that has been done almost globally at this stage, and we need to build a framework that has exactly what Glenn said, skills and qualifications attached to each role at each level, so that people understand what careers are available, what they look like, what the salary, what the earning potential is, and then we give people the choice to join us.
Okay. Panel, thank you very much indeed. That was a fantastic conversation. I know that we're going to be picking up on those themes in the future. Far from me to correct you, panel, but I will just say this, Oliver. You went on about a football team and said Chelsea. It was Leicester who beat them in the cup final. But thank you very much indeed. Fantastic conversation. Thank you very much indeed, the audience, for all your comments and your questions. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all of them. It's just a function, I'm afraid, of such good participation. So thank you very much indeed for that. A few other points. Just Oliver mentioned then the new OSPAS category. Just to announce to the world that we've introduced this category. It's called Outstanding Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Initiative, which will recognise a company, a team or individual that operates an outstanding equality, diversity and inclusion initiative that has led to an improved security position. So it's got to have linked to a security position, but do give some thought to that. One of the ways in which the OSPAS does contribute to this broader recognition of security world is by trying to identify what good practice and outstanding performance looks like. So look out for that. The UK OSPAS opens next week, and that will be the category there, and we'll be introducing it in other countries around the world too. Thank you for that. Just to let you know that nominations close soon in the United States. Thanks to Team Software, in Benelux, thanks to BAVAC, and in Kenya, closing date 9th of July. So please do get your entries into those countries and recognise those who are really good. Germany, Norway and Romania are also open. And so are the Tackling Economic Crime Awards in the UK. Those who are outstanding economic crime, get your entries in now, still time. And we've also introduced for the first time this year the Cyber Security Auspice, a worldwide initiative involving the leader cyber security associations in the whole world. And those are the categories. What a chance to be recognized for your contributions to cybersecurity. So do please get your entries in as soon as you can. And finally to say, we are going through this all over again on Thursday, when the topic's going to be, who are the beneficiaries of a thriving security sector beyond just clients? And in some way talks to the point that was made by the panel today, that if we're going to promote good security, we need to understand just how good it is, what's great about it. It does a lot more than serve the interests of clients. It has a whole broader range of benefits, and we'll be thinking about those on Thursday. And just to add one other point about the panel, they're talking about security training. Well, next Tuesday, the topic is thinking about security training, too much on the security officer guard and not enough on the managing director. We'll debate that next Tuesday. So thank you very much indeed once again to the panel. Thank you to you, the audience, for your questions. Thank you in the background to Hannah and Christine, who guide us through each week. They don't get seen, but they play a key role. I hope to see you on Tuesday. But until then, wherever you are in the world, stay safe.